So for those of you who think my country right or wrong, and for those of you who want to at least look at our government through some type of ethical prism or ethical lens, there is a large story out right now that it's going to cause a lot of hubbub. And the reason is because people are going to start to ask, well, if we did it then, are we doing it now? And I'm speaking about the fact that the CIA, the FBI, and various parts of the U.S. military, after World War I, recruited and hired over 1,000 known Nazis to work for the U.S. government, primarily for national security interests. In other words, they were using them as spies because the communists had taken over East Germany and the whole Soviet bloc was growing, and we needed agents, so said the CIA, and we needed informants, so said the FBI, who would work with us. So we put them on the payroll, and we looked the other way. Now, to give you background real quick, this man, he was an SS officer, Otto von Boschwing. He was a mentor of and a top aide to this man, Adolf Eichmann, who history records as the architect of the final solution to kill millions of Jews. Do you understand the severity of this? He was a top aide to Adolf Eichmann. That means he was right there on the ground helping carry out plans to kill hundreds of thousands, millions of innocent men, women, and children, whose only fault was an accident of birth, as Winston Churchill called it. His son, Gus Van Bolschwing, in an article with the New York Times, said that they should have never let him into this country. So what they did was they hired him, used him as a spy in Eastern Europe until 1954. Then they moved him to America and let him retire in New York City. And the CIA's official memo said that he had innocuous activities with the Nazi Party. Innocuous activities? Then there was this man. So this fellow they hired for $1,700 a year and 2 cartons of cigarettes a month. Now, he was involved in murdering 60,000 Jews in Lithuania, machine gunning them, okay? It came out in the early 90s because there were still government agencies in the U.S. who did not know that the CIA was involved with these guys, that found him and set the wheels in motion to deport him, which ultimately they did. But the CIA called up the FBI and said, you cannot prosecute this man. So they came to an understanding that if it ever came out in the courtroom that he worked as a CIA informant and he was on the CIA payroll, that they would shut down the case. That was the deal they cut. Well, it never came out. And the CIA's official line at that time was that they had no knowledge of his activities during the war, which was a total lie. They knew that he was involved in murdering 60,000 people. So here's a couple of ethical questions. Number one, the scripture says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. What would you want done if your murderers were being offered a job with the CIA or the FBI? Do the dead have rights? Should they have been brought to justice? I mean, we had those trials at Nuremberg. Deuteronomy chapter 21 talks about blood guilt. That if you know who murdered somebody, you are required to bring them to justice, or the blood of the victims cries out from the ground to God, and God will bring judgment. What about the idea of my country, right or wrong? Do ethics matter? Consider Jeremiah. I mean, we're dual citizens, all right? We have a citizenship in heaven and a citizenship here on earth, and our allegiance to heaven is first. The prophet Jeremiah kept saying, Babylon is going to win, and if you surrender to them, you'll live. Well, the authorities finally arrested him and said, look, he's a traitor. He's demoralizing the troops. We got to kill this guy. Ultimately, Jeremiah was rescued, and he survived, but Jeremiah was standing with God. Jeremiah was standing with his allegiance to the kingdom of heaven first. And you and I have an obligation to stand with God and with his laws and with the kingdom of heaven first, not second. It's not my country right or wrong. Allegiance to God first, then country. And when our country is wrong, we need to say so. This was abominable. And some people say, well, how many lives were saved? They're not even saying that this was an ethical problem at the time. These guys weren't being hired because, well, we know that if we hire him and put him right here, he'll save 10,000 lives on this boat transporter. They'll save 500 lives on this air flotilla. This was just, we wanted data. We wanted spies during the Cold War. That's it. It's despicable. And it makes you wonder, what's our government doing right now? I mean, a government that allows the murder of babies, a government that won't recognize the danger of lone wolf Muslims, a government that is pushing for militant homosexuals to undermine and overthrow the covenant and sacrament of marriage, a government that is spying on its own citizens while allowing lone wolves of Islam to emerge. What's our government doing now with the ex-Nazis of today? I'll be right back. I have been a leader in the pro-life movement for 30 years. And sadly, we have not prevailed in our goal to make it a criminal act to kill an unborn baby. There's reasons why we have failed. I wrote this book, A Humble Plea, to Catholic bishops, to evangelical clergy, and to lay people, explaining where we went wrong and what we have to do to prevail. We've made this available as a PDF online for free. I encourage you to go and download your own copy. We have put together what we call an online university for you. Now that's a highfalutin way of saying that we have a pretty significant library of material, books, tapes, videos that are there for you for free. Why are we doing this? Because America is desperate for new leaders, and because this material could help you to become the leader that you and God want you to be. Check it out and enjoy it.